Hi, it's Ace here from Skunk Anansie, and I am testing out some of the new reissue of the Marshall pedals today. So I've got the original Guv'nor, and I've used it on practically all of the Skunk records. I remember using it on the first Skunk album because at the time it was produced by Garth Richardson, who'd done the Rage Against the Machine record, who just finished it. And he also brought a Guv'nor, and he said, "Hey, I've got this amazing pedal, you've got to use it." We used it on all of the bass on the Rage Against the Machine album, and he pulled out the Guv'nor, and I said, "I've got one too." And so we actually used it on the bass on our record as well, but I used my Guv'nor for all of the guitars. And it's always been in my box, so I've had it for years. I've even got the original box that it came in as well. So it's really interesting to test out these pedals. So where I'm set up is, I'm playing a PRS Tremonti here, and this has got like vintage voice pickups in it. So it's got these pickups called 5708s. So it's very similar to a very old Les Paul, like a 1959 type of Les Paul. And my favourite sound is a bit like kind of Paul Kossoff, you know, or AC/DC. It's quite clean, and it's driven, but it's enough to give, like, you know, a vintage clarity. So we've got a really nice strumming sound for chords when you're loud on stage. But what I do is I complement that with overdrivers for solos. So I'll use a distorted Marshall amp, you know, with the valve tone, and then I'll have this kind of pretty driven sound. But then I will, for all my lead breaks or anything I need a bit more sustain, I'll just push it with an overdriver. So I've got some setup here. What I tend to do is I use a mixture between gain and level to get the sound. So I don't push the gain all the way up and then turn it up with a level. I kind of go half and half each, because I think that level pushes amps really, really well, and gain gives you that kind of bite of the drive. So first of all, we've got the Guv'nor. So this is set very similar to my original one that I have. So we've got the normal sound, you know, which is, and then you put the Guv'nor on. So it's giving me a bit more drive. So without the Guv'nor. So I'm using it to kind of like just give it a bit more weight, because when it's really loud on stage, I found the more kind of distortion I have, the less I can kind of hear it, and it doesn't really, you know, slam with the band so much. So I use this for a bit more weight. So next up, we've got Shredmaster. I don't own a Shredmaster. I kind of remember it from when it came out, but I was obviously a young boy. And so let's have a listen to this. It's got a slightly different tone as well. So it's got a really nice tone, and it gives something to the guitar. It gives it a certain edge in the drive, and it kind of, the sustain of it, I mean, I can feel it when I play it. It just makes solos and things really easy to play. Really nice fat sounding chords. And lots of sustain, as you can see on the solos. Makes it really fluid, actually, when you're playing. Makes it really easy. Right, next up we've got Drivemaster. I don't know Drivemaster at all, so this is a completely new one to me. I've kind of got the gain and the volume up, the same thing. There's about as much of each, you know, I can push them up a little bit. I also have a lot of bass. I like the bottom end, you know, I really like those sounds of those bands, you know, anything from Slipknot to Limp Bizkit, you know, where they've got a real weighty bottom end in their guitars, you know, and I've always tried to retain that. So a lot of the things, even on the amps, I push up the bass, but then I compensate with a bit of treble and presence. Okay, so here we go, lots of bass, middle treble at both at 2 o'clock, and I'm just pushing the volume and the gain at 2 o'clock as well. So without the pedal. Actually, this one I'm really preferring, actually. There's something about this one, it's got like a higher kind of mid, sweeter sound in the top of it, I suppose. It's hard to say, but you can kind of hear it. But when you're playing, you kind of feel it as well. And it makes the chord sound really alive. It's really weighty. So let's try it without. So I've got quite a fat, dull tone there, like this huge, big, kind of, it sounds amazing, super loud, all right? So lots of sustain. I really like this one. So far, this is my favourite sound. It just gives an extra something. I think when you get really loud as well, it'll probably really sound good. It kind of hits you, you know, when you're playing. And also this kind of frequency really fits into a band well, especially if you're a single guitar player. So finally, I'm going to look at the Bluesbreaker. Bluesbreaker, I think I may have owned one of these in my lifetime, but I don't have it anymore. Great thing about Bluesbreaker, it really does what it says on the tin. It's not a heavy kind of metal type pedal. But any pedal can be heavy metal if you've got the right sounding amp and guitar. So this one, with all the pedals as well, I haven't really pushed the gains up to the max. There's a lot more drive on them. It's just my personal sound is that sound. So this one, we've got the gain up to about 2 o'clock here, and I've pushed the volume up a bit more. What's great about this pedal, it just sounds really weighty. So without the pedal, with the pedal, so it's not really changing the amp much, but you can really feel it in the playing, but it's given more sustain. So you don't lose any bottom end, you don't really lose any tone of the amp. It just kind of pushes it. It makes it a bit more responsive, I suppose. So if you're a bit of a tone purist, I think a Bluesbreaker would be great. Also, if you're a blues player, obviously. Let's see what it sounds like on the neck pickup. Got that really nice blues tone on the neck, and obviously I think if you've probably got something like a Stratocaster through it as well, it'll sound even better. As I said, it's not got a massive amount of drive on this. Let's try pushing it up. So if you push it up, it actually drives a lot. So if you're in a stoner band, for instance, I love stoner music, by the way, this is the pedal for you, because you're not looking for these massive kind of overdrives for fluid leads, you know. You're looking for big, weighty sounding chords. So if you've got some kind of vintage old Marshall and you push it with this, I think you're going to be in that zone of, you know, Isis, Sleep, The Grey, all those kind of bands, okay? So my verdict is, I think obviously I've had the Guv'nor for years, so I'm very used to this. It's a great staple pedal for me, for everything from guitar. It's really good on bass as well, because it has bass, middle and treble on it, which is something you don't get on a lot of bass drive pedals. So that's really, really good. But out of the new range, I think it's the Drivemaster for me, and I think the Bluesbreaker if I want just some weighty vintage kind of sound going on. So those are probably the ones I'd use live. In the studio, I'd probably use all of them for all different kind of things.